Saludos, it's your host, Gabe Morales. You may recall when I started my State Department of Corrections series that I may occasionally do a video on a different subject. Given a recent incident in Mexico that has major implications for the United States and across the world, I decided to do another one, this time on the capture of Nemesio, El Mencho, Oseguera-Cervantes.
Delta 1.
Hey, ¿quién habla?
Mira bien, hijo de tu puta madre. Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tu puta gente a la verga. Soy Mencho, güey. Relaja tus putas partidas. Si no te voy a partir tu madre, tienes toda tu bola de perros. Te tengo identificado 30 güeyes. Hasta tus putos perros te voy a matar si no te relajas, güey. ¿Cómo ves?
Ya está, señor. Ahorita los bajo.
You just heard a radio transmission from El Mencho to a Mexican comandante. As you could tell, Mencho is very upset, and he says a lot of cuss words in Spanish, threatening the Mexican comandante to back off, that he knows who his family is, and he'll kill his family and everybody there. And the Mexican comandante apologizes, and does in fact back off. As I stated in my previous Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generacion video, Mencho was born near Aguililla, Michoacan, in the mid-1960s, to a poor family that cultivated avocados. He dropped out of school in the 5th grade and ended up guarding marijuana plantations for local drug lords, but soon decided that he wanted a better life for himself, so like many Mexican nationals, he crossed the border into the United States. According to border records, El Mencho passed over the border several times using aliases. Drug Enforcement Administration officials and Mexican authorities believe it was at this time he became involved in large methamphetamine and heroin transactions in the Redwood City, San Mateo, California area, along with his brother-in-law, Abigail Gonzalez Valencia, alias El Queenie. In 1989, he was arrested in San Francisco for selling narcotics, and he was deported to Mexico, but re-entered several months later and moved back to the San Francisco area. In September of 1992, he was arrested again, this time on federal drug charges in Sacramento, California. According to reports, Mencho and his brother Abraham were at a San Francisco bar to carry out a heroin deal, and Abraham carried out the transaction while Mencho acted as a lookout. Mencho was 26 years old at this time and took the heat for his brother, who already had 2 strikes. As many of you know, California at that time had a 3 strikes law, which meant that you were out. You were in prison for life. Mencho ended up going to the federal BOP and did time at the Big Spring Correctional Center in Texas, which houses a very large population of illegal immigrants. After 3 years in the joint, he was sent back to Mexico, being 30 years old. He joined a couple of police forces in the state of Jalisco. But after a short time, I guess after he learned their system, he joined the Millennial Cartel. While working for the Millennial Cartel, he worked as a sicario, or assassin. He then married one of the drug cartel leader's sisters, Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, who I'll come back to here shortly. This marriage was considered to be a very good business decision by El Mencho, and he rapidly became a major figure in organized crime in Mexico. So the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generacion was born out of the Millennial Cartel in remnants of the old Jalisco Cartel, continued to become probably the most powerful drug lord in Mexico, largely through the sale of fentanyl, which is said to be 100 times more powerful than heroin. They started introducing it to the United States in larger quantities, which caused a wave of overdose deaths in the United States. Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, the wife of El Mencho, was known to be his key financier. She was known to have laundered money through over 70 businesses, and she was dressed as being La Jefa, the boss. In May 2018, she was arrested by the Mexican Navy in Jalisco for money laundering after posting amparo, which is kind of like bail here in the United States, and having several legal battles and hearings. She was incarcerated. A judge granted her release, but in November 2021, she was recaptured. Mencho's son, El Menchito, Ruben Enseguera Gonzalez, was a Mexican-American citizen, having been born in the United States, while Mencho was living in the Bay Area. He allegedly worked as his father's second-in-command, but he was arrested in 2014, let go, but rearrested in 2015. In 2017, a U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C., charged him with international drug trafficking, and he was extradited to the United States in February of 2020, was found guilty, and is currently incarcerated in the BOP. Mencho's daughter, Jessica, known as La Negra, was also born in the United States in the San Francisco area. She was arrested when her brother was put on trial in 2020. She had gone to view the trial to visit him for support when she was also charged under the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin designation, better known as the Kingpin Act. Like her mother, she had also been laundering money for the cartel. Eventually, Mencho became so powerful, he stated he feared nobody in Mexico, not even El Chapo Guzman or El Mayo Zambada. Even after the capture of Sinaloa cartel leaders El Chapo Guzman and Lamayo Zambada, there was a lot of drugs flowing into the United States, as we all know. They may have cut off the border as far as a lot of people seeking to cross it. I believe mostly because they're scared that ICE will arrest them once they're here and lock them up and deport them. But it's pretty obvious to me that drugs like fentanyl are still getting across the border. There have been several unsuccessful efforts to capture Mencho previously, but in late February 2026, Mexican authorities received confidential information where Mencho may be. Many people state that it was well known where Mencho was hiding out, but nobody wanted to move in to capture him because he was well guarded, and where he was, his forces could see Mexican authorities coming for miles. It was found out that Mencho had planned to meet up with his longtime lover, Guadalupe Moreno Carrillo, and after verifying that indeed he had spent the night with her, Mexican authorities decided to close in on the luxurious Tapala Country Club where he often hung out. Initially, ground forces were sent in because they didn't want to alert Mencho and his bodyguards and forces that the Mexican authorities were approaching. Special forces of the Sedena and the National Guard moved in to capture him, which is when the helicopter gunships also moved in. Mexican authorities then encircled the area where he is believed to be, and they swooped in, putting their plan into action. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said that U.S. intelligence aided the operation, but that it was entirely carried out by Mexican ground forces. These forces immediately came under fire from Oseguera's people. Mencho and several of his lieutenants and bodyguards were wounded, and Mencho and two of his main lieutenants, Ruben Guerrero Valadez, also known as El R1, identified as the son of the cartel's regional boss in Tapalpa, Jalisco, and Hugo Cesar Macias Ureña, known as El Tuli, who was previously identified as being a key figure in the cartel's structure, were then transported by helicopter for medical attention, but according to authorities, died during flight. In addition to many of Oseguera's people being killed, at least 25 Mexican military and police forces were killed. Some say the count was at least 70, some say even much higher, and that the government is hiding this. And immediately, Mencho's people started setting up roadblocks all over Jalisco and all across Mexico in many states, burning vehicles and businesses. The cartels also bombed airports, and many tourists in Mexico were told to shelter in place at their hotels, being trapped with nowhere to go. Mencho's people demanded that Mexican authorities hand over his body and threatened violence if they did not. Just recently, there was said to be a very secretive funeral with mass Mexican police presence for security. The local press did cover it, but were kept far away. They zoomed in with high-quality lenses anyway, and captured an image of a blonde woman believed to be Mencho's daughter, Naisha Michelle, who's said to have been one for questioning. Whether authorities just didn't know it was her, or some kind of secret deal was made to avoid further violence in the area, is unknown at this time. I will now present to you a guest speaker who has appeared on this show before. He is highly respected by both Mexican and United States police forces and has trained many down in Mexico on the drug cartels, as well as police in the United States. He was even recently gravely wounded, not too long ago, by the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generacion after he gave it training, and two of his peers were in fact killed. I consider him to be a very near and dear friend. I reintroduce to you Pablo Cajigal del Angel, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what he knows about El Mencho. He is down there right now, has been there for many years, working the cartels and very well versed on that. And so I'm going to have him come on now and tell us a little bit about what he knows, like I said, and he's going to be speaking in Spanish. I will translate it for you if you're not a Spanish speaker. ¿Cómo estás, amigo?
Bien, bien, muy bien. Muchas gracias por invitarme, Gabe, a su programa.
Igualmente,
Sí.
gracias a ti. Entonces, todos saben que el Mencho ya es muerto en unos días del pasado. Dinos, ¿qué pasó en tus palabras, en tus ideas? ¿Qué pasó ahí en México con el Mencho y con la Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación?
Como bien saben, la historia es corta, sencilla, porque sabemos que el cártel de Jalisco Nueva Generación es un cártel que no nace solo, ¿no? Sino nace de otro cártel, que era el cártel del Milenio, ¿no? Que era con los hermanos Valencia, y que inclusive él se emparenta o se casa con una de las hermanas, su esposa es Valencia, ¿no? Y entonces viene ya una simbiosis de amistad o de familia, donde el Mencho se empieza a conectar ya con todo este tipo de estructura criminal, de organización, y se hace cada vez más grande. Pero aquí el tema del por qué el cártel de Jalisco Nueva Generación se hizo todavía mucho más extenso y con mucho más poder que otros, La razón, como bien sabe usted, Gabe, nada se hace sin la complicidad de los gobernantes, ¿verdad? Hay una corrupción, hay una impunidad envuelto con figuras claves de la política y de las propias autoridades de seguridad que tienen que ver con todos los niveles de gobierno de México. Sí, pero cuando despunta, cuando este cártel se hace mucho más poderoso, es con el sexenio de Enrique Peña Nieto, ¿no? En ese tiempo es cuando crece todavía más, pero cuando entra el gobierno de López Obrador, es cuando todavía empieza a surgir el nombre y empieza a hacerse más poderoso, empiezan a tener más recursos, más dinero, porque los negocios los empieza a diversificar. Como bien sabe usted, este cártel actúa no peleando con los otros pequeños grupos o cárteles locales, sino que al contrario, hizo una especie de sucursales con ellos, como franquicias, y entonces empieza a hacer franquicias por todo el territorio nacional, haciendo pactos con los grupos que ya existen de por sí en esos lugares, y entonces empieza a dominar esos territorios cobrando solamente una cuota, un derecho de piso, ¿no? Para que pudieran trabajar y pudieran tener la protección de este cártel poderoso. Se pone el cártel en una posición como si fuera una organización como se llama formalmente, como si fuera una organización mundial o transnacional o internacional, y empieza a contratar o a subcontratar a todos los grupos que ya existían y que ya hacían algún tipo de actividad delictiva en diferentes partes del país. Los empieza a absorber y les empieza a vender la franquicia. ¿En qué consiste la franquicia? En que puedes hacer lo que quieras en este lugar ilegalmente, vender droga, hacer todo lo que es el negocio ilegal de manera libre, con tus propios liderazgos. Yo no te voy a poner un líder, tú tienes tu propio líder y tú lo vas a hacer de manera independiente. Solamente me tienes que dar una parte de
Entiendo,
un derecho de
como un
piso.
negocio de McDonald's. Ahora están todas las partes en todo el mundo.
Exacto, exacto. Y entonces, yo solamente si tú tienes problemas, yo te voy a proteger contra otros grupos o te voy a conseguir todo lo que necesites para que tú operes libremente, sin problema del gobierno, sin problema de nada. ¿Sí? A otro tema, este cártel ya no es un cártel de drogas nada más. El negocio de las drogas es uno de los negocios, ya no es el principal, ya no es la principal fuente de ingresos de estas organizaciones, sino que lo que hacen es que ahora, por eso ya le llaman ya empresas criminales, porque diversificaron todos los negocios y entonces empezaron a crecer las extorsiones, los secuestros y los derechos de piso. Estos que se llaman derechos de piso, estos son muy importantes porque han hecho que el cártel se vuelva mucho más rico solamente de cobrar derechos de piso. Es decir, van con las personas que tienen un restaurante y dicen, ¿cuántos restaurantes hay aquí? Hay 100. Ok, a cada persona le van a cobrar tanto porque pueda tener su restaurante. Si hay personas que vendan en la calle comida, les cobran. Si hay personas que siembren maíz o que siembren aguacates o que siembren limones, les cobran un tanto por ciento por cada kilo de limones que produzcan o por cada kilo de aguacate que produzcan. Sí, ese es el tema que diversificó el negocio a un tema de que ya no es nada más cruzar droga o narcótico, sino que tienen sus negocios locales. Y se hizo mucho más rico y poderoso cuando empezaron a entrarle al tema del huachicol. Si ha escuchado hablar del huachicol, ¿no? Del robo al combustible. Ahí fue donde este cártel despuntó de manera monstruosa, porque entonces es un negocio redondo. ¿A quién le están robando realmente? Al país, al mismo México. El negocio que es legal lo extraen, lo absorben de los tubos y luego ellos mismos lo venden a las empresas legales, a las gasolineras legales. Ahora se los venden de manera obligatoria, de manera obligada. Ahora me tienes que comprar a mí las que despuntó hace como 6 años para este cártel. Ese es el que les ha dado muchísimo más dinero que que el propio narcótico. Ese y los migrantes. Esas dos, el tráfico humano, el derecho del tráfico humano de pasar desde la frontera sur de México a la frontera norte, ese derecho de tránsito, ese les ha dejado mucho más dinero que que el propio narcótico. Para que pudiera ser así, el Mencho entonces era un personaje que todo mundo sabía dónde estaba, pero con todo sus poderío, nadie quería agarrarlo, porque tenía comprado todo alrededor de él, todo estaba comprado, tenían compromisos con él. Entonces, a pesar de que estaba enfermo, ¿verdad? A pesar de que tenía su problema renal y tenía su problema de que le estaban dando terapias, aún así, de todos modos, él seguía operando de manera normal porque tenía una complicidad com- compleja con muchos niveles de gobierno. De hecho, ahora que salieron las noticias, no sé si vio que encontraron una lista donde dice cuánto le pagaba a cada quien y vienen ahí instituciones y cuánto les pagaba, ¿no? Cuánto les daba a cada uno. Entonces, eh, por qué lo detuvieron ahora? Ese es el asunto, ¿no? No sabemos. No sabemos realmente por qué las autoridades deciden ahora ya ponerle un fin a la historia del Mencho. No sabemos si es político, si es realmente un operativo para acabar con algo, etcétera, pero de repente, usted sabe, el domingo amanece con la noticia de que hay muchos bloqueos por todos lados en diferentes partes. 22 estados de la República Mexicana estuvieron infestados de bloqueos, de quema de vehículos y de manifestaciones de los propios grupos del crimen organizado, específicamente los relacionados con el cártel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, porque estaban manifestándose en contra del operativo que hicieron contra su líder.
Sí, entiendo. Todavía tienen
Y
mucho poder, ¿verdad? Porque ellos, el que tiene dinero tiene el poder,
así es. Y el que tiene el poder puede comprar con plata o plomo, ¿no?
que no. Sí,
Y
sí,
acuérdese que yo salí, nada más para cerrar, recuerde que yo también fui víctima de este mismo grupo,
sí,
¿verdad?
sí,
Y dos compañeros míos perdieron la vida por ese tipo de grupos, porque operan en la impunidad, pueden hacer casi lo que quieran, no hay ley que los limite como antes. Antes eran grupos poderosos, pero siempre había un poder de la autoridad que los limitaba. Ahora, Gabe, en este tiempo estamos viviendo cosas que nunca habíamos vivido antes. Ni Amado Carrillo ni Sinaloa tuvo tanto poder como ahora con este grupo, con esta organización. Poder de impunidad. O sea que pueden hacer
sí.
lo que quieran y nadie los restringe de nada. Ese es el problema que tenemos. Así que, gracias a Dios, estoy aquí con vida y podemos hablar ahorita, hoy mismo, pero estoy a sus órdenes. Cualquier cosa que necesite, a sus órdenes y gracias por la invitación.
Gracias. Cuídate mucho, por favor. Y saludos a la
Igualmente.
familia. Ok,
Claro que
ok,
sí, de su parte.
gracias. Ok,
Cuídense.
adiós.
Hasta luego.
Adiós. So, as Pablo says, it is unknown what is going to happen next with this cartel, but they definitely haven't gone away. Many people state that when you cut off the head of the snake, sometimes it grows several heads. One of the people that are stated to be possibly successors to El Mencho is Juan Carlos El Tres Valencia, who is from the Valencia family and is very well versed on the cartel's operations on both sides of the border. And Juan Carlos was born in Santa Ana, California, and raised by Mencho as his stepson. He ran the cartel's Grupo Elite, one of their special forces wings. Another possible successor is said to be Julio Alberto Castillo Rodriguez, alias El Chorro, Aldias Flores Silva, El Jardinero, Gonzalo Mendoza Gaitán, El Sapo, and Heraclio Guerrero Martinez, aka El Tío Laco. Also, Abraham Jesus Ambris Cano, alias El Yogurt, a jefe in the states of Michoacán, Jalisco, and Colima, seen here saying that they are in the banks controlling the money and giving a warning to a person named Gabriel, who apparently is aligned with the Carteles Unidos, also known as La Resistencia, who are a smaller group of cartels that are rivals to the CJNG. Media sources state that President Sheinbaum had been moved from the presidential palace to a Mexican Navy ship offshore till immediate threats to her life have subsided. I got to admit it, I was wrong about her. I thought she'd just be another omelet like the previous president. For Mexican journalist Anabel Hernandez, Mencho gave approximately $20 million for her presidential campaign, so his forces may view this move as a betrayal. It may be easy for some, like our current president, who has just declared war on Iran and has bombed several countries, the so-called president of peace, to blame the Mexican government for corruption, and for President Claudia Sheinbaum's weakness for not going after the cartels more aggressively. But her government captured El Mencho and has handed over many drug lords to the United States in recent years. But we still have not addressed that these Mexican criminal organizations get most of their weapons from the United States, and we still have not curbed America's drug appetite. Until we do, in my opinion, there'll just be another leader to take the place of El Mencho, as well with other cartels. You can find more about the history of El Mencho and other drug cartels in a book that I just recently updated called How We Lost the Drug War and How We Can Win It Back, available on Amazon.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you did. For now, this is Gabe Morales signing off for Gangsters, Cops, and Politicians.